at Thunderdome, Chapter 8, Unit 7. There's 2 chapters in this unit. Chapter 8 happens to be motivation and emotion, so let's get started. So motivation, biological, emotional, cognitive, or social forces that activate and direct behavior. So this is what motivates us to do the things that we do. And I know that that's a little convoluted these days, but if you break it down to certain things, honestly, we need the bottom rung of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So that is super important in this chapter. So psychologists don't measure motivation directly. Instead, some type of motivation is inferred. When an organism performs a particular behavior, such as curiosity motivating exploratory behavior or hunger motivating eating behavior. So those things are, you think about the thing that comes before the behavior and what is actually making that organism do that particular behavior. So 3 basic characteristics commonly associated with motivation. So we have activation, persistence, and intensity. So activation is demonstrated by the initiation or production of behavior. Persistence is demonstrated by continued efforts or the determination to achieve a particular goal. Intensity is demonstrated in the greater vigor of responding that usually accompanies motivated behavior. Motivation is closely tied to emotional processes. Emotions are possibly what do motivate us, and vice versa. So often motivated to feel a certain emotion, proud, happy, love, and often motivated not to feel a certain emotion, fear, disappointment, and sadness. So we got instinct theories of motivation here. So the view that certain human behaviors are innate. So we're born with them. And due to evolutionary programming, that we have evolved to feel these certain things. So displaying automatic and innate instinctual behavior patterns called fixed action patterns. This is a term you need to know. So migration or mating rituals, that's what you'd see in possibly organisms out there. And then human behavior was also thought to be motivated by inborn instinctual behavior patterns. Inspired by Darwin, William James, psychology's baby daddy, and William McDougall devised a list of human instincts and devoted an entire chapter to it in James's Principles of Psychology book. So these are some of the human instincts that they listed: attachment, fear, disgust, rivalry, greediness, suspicion, hunting, play, shame, anger, resentment, curiosity, shyness, sociability, bashfulness, secretiveness, cleanliness, modesty, love, parental love. All of those things, William James is saying that we have inborn within us. All right, we are evolutionarily programmed to actually have these instincts in us. So early problems with the instinct theories was merely listing the instincts weren't enough. What about explaining them? Where did they come from? How do we have them? What do they actually mean to us when we show these instincts, or these instincts come about? None of that was really answered. They just kind of listed them. Next, we have drive theories. So this is an interesting one. Drive theories view that behavior is motivated by the desire to reduce internal tension caused by unmet biological needs. So internal tension is just a state of unrest within the body. You might know that as being hunger or thirst, right? Something like that. So they drive us or push us to meet those needs, such as hunger or thirst. So when you see drive theorists or drive theories when it comes to motivation, know that they are pushing us from within, okay? They're not pulling us, all right, or anything like that. Like an external thing isn't pulling us towards it, like gravity or something like that. We're talking about an internal tension pushing us to act a certain way. So when a behavior reduces a drive, it becomes more likely to be repeated when when the need arises again. That's classic operant conditioning and classic conditioning. You're just increasing the likelihood of a behavior happening again because, you know, whatever, it was a encouraging experience. So some psychologists, drive theorists, believe the drives are triggered by the internal mechanisms of homeostasis. So the body wants to maintain a steady state. That's what homeostasis is. When an internal imbalance is detected, a drive is produced. So boom, I'm hungry. You know, I can feel my stomach growling or whatever it is. So the drive is a need or internal motivational state that activates behavior to reduce the need and restore homeostasis. This is what drive theory is all about. If you haven't eaten anything for hours, this unmet internal need creates a drive state called hunger. But drive theory has its limitations because we all eat when we are not hungry. I am definitely one of those people. So we have incentive theories, and incentive theories are exactly what you think it is. You know, an incentive is something that would pull you towards it because it would, you know, it would feel good. It's a rewarding sensation, right? So incentives, praise, you know, good tasting foods, all that kind of stuff. All of that would be incentive based, but. Incentive theories is a view that behavior is motivated by the pull of external goals, such as rewards. So these pull you towards a goal or objective because it is external. Drive theories push you because they are internal. Incentive theories draw heavily on the well-established learning principles of reinforcement. When combined, drive and incentive theories account for a broad range of the pushes and pulls motivating many of our behaviors. But even in combination, they still have their limitations. I don't know if you've ever heard about this guy right here, but this is Sean Payton, head coach of the New Orleans Saints. He created an incentive-based protocol for his team that went to the Super Bowl. And he would pay $10,000 if you hurt a member of the other team. And guess what? That incentive worked, and they were good. And their defense was amazing because they were out there trying to hurt people because they were getting paid to do so. He got suspended for a year in the NFL for doing that. All right. So arousal theory, the view that people are motivated to maintain a level of arousal that is optimal, neither too high nor too low. We've talked about this a couple times in this class. So if the arousal is too low, we experience boredom and want to increase our arousal by seeking stimulating experiences. If the arousal is too high, we seek to reduce arousal in a less stimulating environment. People want to maintain an optimal level of arousal, not too high, not too low. And again, whenever I say arousal, I'm talking about bodily arousal, not necessarily sexual arousal. So we have sensation seekers, people who would jump out of planes or jump off of bridges or whatever. Sensation seekers find heightened levels of arousal very pleasurable. So sensation seeking, the degree to which an individual is motivated to experience high levels of sensory and physical arousal associated with varied and novel activities, like skydiving. So need for very complex and unique sensory experiences, skydiving, whitewater rafting, studying abroad, all of those things could be considered that. Humanistic theories of motivation. This is a view that emphasizes the importance of psychological and cognitive factors in motivation. Again, we're looking at the works of Carl Rogers and Abraham Maslow, the two founding fathers of humanistic psychology, where it basically is we are motivated to reach our highest potential. This is a notion that people are motivated to realize their personal potential. Carl Rogers and Abraham Maslow were two psychologists that championed this theory. They didn't discount the role of biological and external motivators, but they just emphasized cognitive components in human motivation. They suggested that people are motivated to realize their highest personal potential. Maslow would call it self-actualization. They recognize the importance of the environment. They must be supportive and encouraging for you to actually reach self-actualization. So personally, socially, and culturally, if your environment is encouraging you and supporting you, then you have a chance. If not supported, the motivation towards one's potential could be jeopardized. Biological motivation, we have hunger and eating. These are huge motivators for a human. You know, people are often, I mean, imagine if we just broke it down to what we are truly motivated by. It would be survival and hunger, eating, thirst, all that kind of stuff. That comes first, always. We don't really necessarily think of it that way anymore, but yeah, I mean, why do we make money? To put food on the table, to eat. I mean, if you didn't have money or your caregivers didn't have money, you would feel hunger, and it would motivate you even more probably to find money. So hunger is a biological motive, but eating behavior is motivated by a complex interaction of biological, social, and psychological factors. So questions asked during this section that we'll answer: what signals regulate the motivation to start and stop eating? How do people maintain a stable body weight over time? Why do people become overweight and obese? And what causes eating disorders? So we'll go over that kind of stuff in this part of chapter 8. All right, so first off we have energy homeostasis. So the food you consume obviously is going to give you energy. It's broken down into enzymes and gradually absorbed by your intestines. Food is broken down into amino acids, fatty acids, simple sugars, providing fuel for your body, energy for your body. Glucose is probably the most notable one here. Glucose is a simple sugar that provides energy and is primarily produced by the conversion of carbohydrates and fats, commonly called blood sugar. In the liver, glucose is stored as glycogen, which can be converted easily back to glucose for energy. Then we come across a term that you've heard before, insulin. It's a hormone produced by the pancreas, and it regulates blood levels of glucose and signals the hypothalamus, regulating hunger and eating behavior. This helps maintain a stable body weight. About 1/3 of your body's energy is expended for routine physical activities of daily life: walking, lifting objects, brushing your teeth, digesting the food you eat. 1/3 of your body's energy is used for that. The remaining 2/3 of your body's energy is used for continuous body functions. They're essential for life: generating body heat, heartbeat, respiration, brain activity. Just being you. All right? Just being you accounts for 2/3 of your energy expenditure. Just being alive. Then you have the voluntary stuff, right? Like I said, lifting objects, walking, brushing your teeth, and digesting the food you eat. That's 1/3. So when you are resting, the rate at which your body is using energy for vital function is called your BMR, right? Your basal metabolic rate. So when the body is at rest, the rate at which it uses energy for vital functions. Another reason why you eat is to maintain a reserve of energy. Adipose tissue, what we would call fat, is body fat that is the main source of stored or reserved energy. We have to have a reserve of energy. We are biologically, evolutionarily programmed to make sure we have extra energy. Because what if we, again, we're dealing with ancient hardware in a modern world. So think about this for a second. I mean, you are designed to understand that you might not eat for a couple days, maybe even a week. Remember, the human body can go about 2 months without food. Look, I don't think we know what true hunger is, right? We live in a very excellent place, right? The United States, hunger is kind of not obsolete, but it's few and far between. We don't know what true hunger probably feels like. So we always eat too much, try to get the fat stores up. That's what we're evolved to do. All right, energy homeostasis. We have positive versus negative energy balance. So your typical or average body weight is called your baseline body weight. A regulatory process called energy homeostasis helps you maintain the baseline body weight. So this is long-term matching of food intake and energy expenditure. So we're talking about calories here. So that is a unit of energy for us in the body. This means that the number of calories you consume almost exactly matches the number of calories you expend for energy. So eventually, as a human, you end up evening this out and you understand what you need for the day. You consume that day, and you're done. However, we kind of, we're Americans, probably most of us, so we definitely experience this thing of overeating. We'll talk about that soon. So energy balance can become disrupted if you eat more or less food. So if you have a positive energy balance, it means that you have taken in more calories than you actually expend during a day. This would cause weight gain. This would cause your reserves, your energy reserves would go up, and that would be called fat or adipose tissue. So when there is more glucose in your body that needs more glucose than your body needs, it is transferred into reserve energy, which is fat, which can be used for later energy. Again, that is a huge survival advantage of a human. Then you have negative energy balance. Caloric intake falls short of the calories expended by energy. So your reserved energy and fat cells are now used for physical activity and metabolic functions. So it basically comes down to this. If you want to gain weight, you need to have a positive energy balance. If you want to lose weight, you should have a negative energy balance. And if you want to maintain, you've got to find that homeostasis, that point of, okay, I'm expending this much energy during a day, and I am taking in this much to use as energy for the day. And it evens out. Short-term signals that regulate eating, so things that kind of you understand probably. You've actually probably felt this happen in your body. So physiological changes that predict eating. Many people believe that eating is triggered by a drastic drop in blood glucose levels. That's not true. When those are rapidly restored by food consumption, not accurate. Blood levels of glucose stay relatively the same throughout the day. However, about 30 minutes before you eat, you experience a slight increase in blood levels of insulin and a slight decrease in blood levels of glucose. The more important internal signal is a new hormone discovered by Japanese researcher Kojima, and it is the hunger hormone. It is called ghrelin. How easy is that? When I'm hungry, I'm going to hop outside, I'm going to hop on the grill, and I'm going to start grilling. Gotta know, that is the hunger hormone. Okay? So this is a hormone manufactured primarily by the stomach that stimulates appetite and the secretion of growth hormone by the pituitary gland. So there's been some research done on rats. If rats are deprived of food, ghrelin levels increase sharply. Continuously injected with ghrelin, so they've extracted this hormone called ghrelin, and now they're going to inject it into these rats. They can't stop eating. And if they block the ghrelin receptors, eating behavior is subsided. So what about people? Ghrelin levels are involved in short-term regulation of eating behavior. So they rise shortly before and fall shortly after eating. In a long-term regulation of energy balance and weight, ghrelin is important. Two other internal factors are correlated with meal onset, so body temperature and metabolism rate. So your body temperature and metabolism rate are going to change right before meals. So prior to eating, body temperature increases and metabolism decreases. As you eat, the internal physiological patterns reverse. Some people actually feel cold after eating because of this. Classical and operant conditioning can affect your eating behavior. So classical conditioning, this is pretty easy. Remember, you are pairing two stimuli to elicit the same response. So classical conditioning, the time of day would be the conditioned stimulus, elicits a reflexive internal response, which will be the conditioned response, such as changes in glucose, insulin, ghrelin, increased body temperature, and decreased metabolism. In turn, these physiological changes increase your sense of hunger. And you can get so entrained, right, that just think about it, you have 3 meals a day, right, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Your body can feel so entrained that even if you aren't actually hungry, just because you're classically conditioned at that point to eat during the day, you will feel hunger. We're not made to eat 3 times a day, okay? Evolutionarily speaking, we're not eating 3 times a day. We might not eat 3 times a week. But all of a sudden, society has handed down this breakfast, lunch, and dinner thing and all of a sudden this is what we're made to, well, this is what we're not made to do, but we're societally influenced to do. Operant conditioning, voluntary eating behaviors are followed by reinforcing stimulus, the taste of food. The taste of food is pretty good, right? I usually teach this right around Thanksgiving during a regular year. Not all foods are equally reinforcing. People develop preferences for certain foods and certain tastes. I mean, fatty foods, sugary foods, they taste better than others. So sweet, salty, fatty tastes all have positive incentive value. Positive incentive value doesn't only go along with food. So in eating behavior, it's the anticipated pleasure of consuming a particular food, like an Oreo. I'm gonna have a dopamine hit after I eat a whole slew of Oreos. In general, though, a positive incentive value is the expectation of pleasure or satisfaction in performing a particular behavior. So it's not only in eating behavior, you can see this in other behaviors as well. Your motivation to eat is influenced by prior learning experiences that have shaped your expectations, especially the anticipated pleasure of eating certain foods. And we get in trouble for that, right? Our bodies don't necessarily like that. I like this term, I like saying this word, satiation. But satiation signals, so signals of being full. So in eating behavior, it is the feeling of fullness and diminished desire to eat that accompanies eating a meal. In general, the sensation of having an appetite or desire fully or excessively satisfied. This quote always makes me laugh. The meal is not over when I'm full. The meal is over when I hate myself. That's me every single Thanksgiving. I'm going to get seconds, then I'm going to get thirds, and then, who knows? Dive into a little bit of dessert, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm an apple pie guy. I don't like pumpkin pie. A little apple pie dessert, a la mode, with the ice cream. Several signals combine to help trigger satiation. So stretch receptors in the stomach that communicate sensory information to the brainstem. So it's really sensory neurons communicating, right? Your stomach is actually stretching. And those stretch receptors in the stomach are actually sending messages to the brain. Oh my gosh, we're filling the stomach up, we're filling the stomach up, don't do it anymore. That's a slow process though, by the way. Okay? That is you don't know. It'll take 20 minutes for that to actually communicate to your brain fully. So you could be eating and overeating for 20 minutes because of that. The sensitivity of the stomach stretch receptors is increased by a hormone called CCK. So cholecystokinin is a hormone secreted primarily by the small intestine that promotes satiation. It's also found in the brain. During meals, CCK is entered into the bloodstream, promoting satiation and reducing or stopping eating. Psychological factors that play a role in satiation. As you eat a meal, there's a decline in the positive incentive value of any available food, but especially the food that you're currently eating. So we have a sensory specific satiety, the reduced desire to